I'm Dr. Phyllis Collins of DietHobby.com. Some of you know me as the YouTube Grandma. Today I'm going to make another one of my special comfort dishes. This is called Meal in a Dish, and it's only a diet recipe when you exercise portion control. The whole recipe, your share makes 8 servings, and this pan is going to be full, and 1/8 of it is going to be a serving. And 1/8 is 326 calories, 15 carbs, and 12.4 grams of protein. Portion control is what I do in my diet. Sometimes I have special diet foods, and sometimes I eat foods that are not special diet foods, but foods that I've been cooking for years and years. But what I've done is learned how much to eat of the portion. And if you look at my tips and tricks, I have like 5 videos of tips and tricks on storing foods, and you will see how very important that is. It's an extremely important thing to know if you're trying to watch your portions. So if you're interested in dieting, if you're interested in weight loss, if you want to know how can I eat such a small amount and not eat the rest, then you need to watch those videos on tips and tricks that involve storage of how I store foods that I buy. Okay, we're going to start out. This is a comfort meal, and when my first husband was in graduate school, was very young, then I was the cookbook chairman of the Wives Association, and this is one of the recipes that was one of my contributions. Okay, in those days, I have to tell you, that was before they had Hamburger Helper. You know, when you made food, you made it yourself, and you could use canned things here and there, you know, but you didn't have the process, you know, you didn't have the package and just dump the package in. You had to actually make it. Pretty much only packages you had were packaged soups. Some people don't like to use packaged soups because they feel like it's a processed food. I use canned soups. I think that I use Campbell's cream of chicken soup all the time, or you could use cream of mushroom for this recipe. And this recipe calls for green beans. And so anyway, I'm going to show you how to make it. Start out, most of my comfort food recipes started out whenever that's because it was inexpensive in those days, with a pound and half ground beef. Now, in those days I used fatty ground beef because the lean ground beef was way too expensive for me. Nowadays I use lean ground beef. So you can put maybe, I use spray coat. I spray coat the pan first, and I did that without showing you. And then you can put up to tiniest little bit of oil, maybe up to a tablespoon, if you feel like you need to do it without burning. Okay, now I have here a chopped raw onion, about a medium-sized raw onion. I'm just dumping it on top of the meat. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir this around. Okay, now as I do this, I salt and pepper things. So I'm just going to sprinkle salt to taste and pepper to taste. And you just have to, you know, I've been cooking a long time, so how long you saw me sprinkle, that's about how much. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brown this meat. And actually I'm going to cook it all the way through. It'll be brown, but it's actually going to be cooked when I finish. Okay, the meat's been browning for a while, and the onions have been cooking with it. And you can see that it's a little crumbly and the onions are soft. Now, if I had used full-fat hamburger meat instead of lean hamburger meat, probably I would want to drain off some of the liquid grease to save some calories. But since I'm using lean ground beef, I don't have to do that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 can, and I'm using cream of chicken soup. You could use cream of mushroom soup, but I like the way cream of chicken soup tastes better even when I use it with ground beef. So it's, you know, it's thick, you know what soup looks like, and any brand is fine. But it's just, I'm putting this inside and mixing it up with the onions and the ground beef. Now this is a comfort food. It's an inexpensive recipe. My family, my children were small, I cooked it, and my family always liked it. I never used Hamburger Helper because they didn't have it when I was young, and I just like the way that I make things better, and it doesn't take any longer. I still have to cook the hamburger. Okay, so I've mixed that up all together. Okay, now what I'm going to do is this is all mixed up. You see that hamburger and I'm taking and I'm spraying this pan right here, and it's got to be a pan that can go in the oven. Any kind of casserole pan. I use this pan because I'm going to divide it in eighths, and the eighth is a very small amount. This is 326 calories for 1/8. That's how you make it a low-calorie recipe. Okay, so take here, and I'm going to have to, oh darn it, I really have a hard time since I broke my wrist because I can't do things the way I'm used to. Okay, I'm going to dump it out, okay, into this pan. So this is sort of similar to the idea similar to a shepherd's pie in a way. So here it is, it's like the base, and like I said, this is called meal in a dish. And here are my green beans, which I've drained, and I'm just going to sprinkle these green beans around. If I'm really hungry and I want more recipe, then I might use 2 cans of green beans, but this recipe actually only calls for 1 can. Now the next is I have these leftover mashed potatoes. I have 2 cups of mashed potatoes, and they're left over from another meal that I had. You could put mashed potatoes special, or sometimes I used to just get instant potatoes and make instant mashed potatoes and use that for them. But this is a really good thing that I do when I have potatoes left over from a company meal or something. So I just take these potatoes and I'm going to sprinkle them kind of around on top. And because what I have it's meal in a dish. I have all my meal, and it's going to be cooked all at one place at one time. And I know my fingers are in it, but my hands are clean. And that's one of the things that you can't, when you're cooking, you can't be afraid to touch food. Because I guess if you were a chef in a fancy restaurant, you know, there's another way. But when you do home cooking the way that I do, you just have to touch your food now and then. Okay, now to top this all off, I usually take about tiny bit of butter. What I'm using, what I'm using is the equivalent of about a tablespoon. Just little teeny tiny dabs, and maybe 3 teaspoons full, which is 1 tablespoon. And this is it. This is how it looks. Now this goes in the oven, and it bakes until the potatoes are kind of brown and crispy on top. And I probably keep this in the oven about ½ an hour. Okay, at 350 degrees. So what I'm going to do is put this in the oven at 350 degrees, and when it's finished, we'll come back and I'll show it to you. We're back with our meal in a dish. It's cooked. This is how it's supposed to look. Whoops! I always do that. Okay, so now we'll say this serves 8 people. In order to only have 326 calories, you have to only have 1/8. So I'm going to say here's half, and here's half, like a pie, and here's half. Okay, so that means this is my serving right here, like 1/8 is kind of like a piece of pie. So I have to get out my serving like a piece of pie. And you know what? Sometimes using a pie server is a really good idea. So I'm going to try that now and see if that will work. No, it's too messy. Okay, so I'm just going to try and make it in the lines and not have more than my share, because this is 326 calories, which is a meal for 1/8 of this recipe. And this is 1/8. Okay, this is how much 1/8 is. This is how much I get to eat. Now if I had a salad with that, Then I would have maybe my salad would be another 100 calories if I have some, low calorie dressing and a salad. This in a salad would be about a 450 calorie meal. So, see, these things add up. Most people don't have any idea how much they eat and how much a proper serving is. I could easily eat half of this and think that I was doing really well, but I wouldn't be. This is how much I'm supposed to eat. And if you can eat more than me, you might get to eat twice that much, 1.5 times as much, or twice this much. But this is how your food is supposed to look. This is the kind of food, this is meal in a dish. This is my vegetable, my meat, my sauce, and my potato. And if you see, the whole thing together is probably only about 3/4 of a cup, right? You can have comfort food, you can have rich, fattening food, but you have to have just a little tiny bit. Come and see me, diethobby.com. Oh, I didn't taste it yet. You know, I have to taste it. You know, it's worth having just a little bit sometimes.